Well, there's a new report tonight revealing more about the focus of U.S. Attorney John Durham's probe into the origins of the Russia witch hunt. Durham is reportedly focusing much of his attention on the CIA requesting the communications of that guy, former Director John Brennan. The probe, however, could now bring into focus current CIA Director Gina Haspel and whether she'll choose to protect Brennan or cooperate fully with Durham. Let's put that question to Heritage Foundation Senior Legal Fellow and former Department of Justice lawyer Hans von Spakovsky. Great to see you, Hans. Is Gina Haspel in the middle?
Well, only if she perceives it that way. I know some people are saying this puts her in a bind. It does not, because her primary duty is not only to protect us in the national security area, but it's also to protect the public from abuse of the power that the intelligence officials have. And in fact, that is what John Durham is looking at. So her first obligation is to cooperate with John Durham and to turn over any communications that he's seeking on Brennan. Because otherwise, if she tries to protect the agency and try to cover up possible misconduct, the mistrust that the American people have of our intelligence agency is going to be even greater.
Yeah, but you know, Hans, you know spies. I mean, that right. Says it all. Speaking of which, Durham, as we point out, focusing squarely on John Brennan, who has a lot to answer for, the instigator of the Russia hoax in many ways. Right. He's the guy who created the interagency task force that was fundamentally a spying operation and the basis for the FBI's launching of the Trump-Russia investigation in July of 2016. It appears also that people were lured overseas so that confidential informants undercover, like Stefan Halpert, could be used to try to entrap Trump campaign officials. Didn't work. What do you make of Durham's focus?
Well, I think he's going after exactly what he should be, which is how did this operation get instigated? Because we now know that in essence, the Steele Dossier was a con game. It was a fraudulent, made-up political opposition document. And yet, not only is Brennan relying on that document when he knows it's unverified, unconfirmed, and political opposition research, but then they're launching an operation against the opposition presidential candidate. That is so far outside of what the CIA is supposed to be doing that it's a good thing Durham is looking into this, because people need to be fired over it and potentially criminally prosecuted for what happened.
I mentioned General Michael Flynn's sentencing has been moved to the end of January. It's pretty clear that he pled guilty to lying under pressure and threats by Robert Mueller's team of partisans. I want to put up on the screen, this is the FBI's report of the interview of Flynn. Throughout the interview, Flynn had a very sure demeanor, did not give any indicators of deception, struck and redacted FBI agent. We know it's Joe Pientka. Both had the impression at the time that Flynn was not lying and did not think he was lying. How is it possible that Mueller could charge Flynn with lying when the only two FBI agents to interview Flynn said he didn't lie?
Well, I have to tell you, I don't understand this, and it's very interesting to me. Look, up until now, justice has been pushing to get this sentencing done as soon as possible. Now, all of a sudden, they want it delayed. I would hope that's an indication that they finally understand that the abuse, the FBI abuse, that the DOJ IG uncovered may have affected this case. Plus, as you know, there is an outstanding motion by Flynn's lawyers asking the Justice Department to turn over Brady material. That's potentially exculpatory material, which they have not yet done. And the judge hasn't ruled on that yet. It would be premature at this point to have a sentencing without all of that information and evidence being released.
You know, much of the Trump-Russia investigation, which turned out to be a hoax, was based on the Christopher Steele phony dossier recently debunked by the Inspector General. Eric Wemple, who's the media critic at the Washington Post, penned a column absolutely slamming MSNBC's Rachel Maddow for inflating the value of the dossier as true. He said she engaged in, quote, a pattern of misleading and dishonest asymmetry. He said she was rooting for the document to be true, and of course it wasn't. Why would anybody in their right mind ever listen to Rachel Maddow now?
I don't know. And, she really hasn't done anything to admit that she was completely wrong. In fact, I think she's still been pushing some parts of this whole discredited story. Look, it was nice to see the Washington Post going after Maddow, but in some ways that was like the pot calling the kettle black, because the Washington Post itself did all kinds of false reports based on the Steele Dossier, and they also, I don't think, have really apologized for the misleading stories they printed about all of this.
And it wasn't just Rachel Maddow. There were others. Let's take a look at this.
So far, nothing in the dossier has been disproved.
The dossier, in fact, is far from bogus.
Increasingly, it's the accurate dossier. Increasingly, it's the damning dossier.
Because, again, nothing in the dossier has been overtly disproved.
There's a lot in the dossier that is yet to be proven, but increasingly, allegations are checking out.
My focus today is to explore how many claims within Steele's dossier are looking more and more likely as though they are accurate.
So we now know the FBI actually found 3 years ago the subsource who fed it all to Christopher Steele, and the guy said, "Are you kidding me? I mean, this is exaggerated, embellished, made up.
Right.
Some of it was said in jest, some joke." What's your reaction to all of that? All of those people in the media claiming and telling the American people that the dossier is true?
Well, they wanted it to be true, which is why they didn't take the most basic journalistic steps that you should take to verify a story. They didn't do any of that. And obviously, it got even worse with the FBI, which, as you know, according to the IG, failed to tell the FISA court that the information in the dossier had not only not been verified, it had been disproven when they started investigating it. And that's why those warrants were issued allowing spying, electronic eavesdropping, when they should never have been issued.
The media engaged in grossly reckless reporting,
Yes.
and it was media malpractice on steroids.
I agree.
Hans von Spakovsky, good to see you. Thanks.
Good to see you. Thanks. Bye-bye.